Thank you. Good morning, Illinois Democrats. You know, I got to say, I've been sitting right here at the table in the front for the past 2 hours listening to these incredible Democratic speeches, and I have reached one conclusion, which is that I don't think there are three truer words in the English language than Illinois Democrats deliver. And so I would ask every one of you to pick up those signs and make sure the cameras in the back see them. Give yourselves a round of applause. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank the governor and the speaker and the Senate president for doing everything they have done to deliver for the people of Illinois over the course of these last few years. It is great to be here in Springfield. I want to say thank you to my colleague, Sherry Bustos, for that very kind introduction, and of course, to your state's senior senator, an icon, someone who has done so much for our great country, Dick Durbin. Thank you so much for inviting me to today's dinner. To today's event, to Dem Day. I think the dinner comes a little later. You might be asking yourself, why is this relatively obscure Colorado congressman delivering the keynote at this storied brunch? And I will simply tell you that the answer is a straightforward one, and one that I suspect many of you will understand, which is when Dick Durbin asks you to do something, you say yes. Now, I flew in last night into St. Louis and made the drive into Springfield, and I was thinking on the plane, reading about the Illinois Democratic Party and the incredible county parties that are represented here at today's brunch, and thinking to myself of the best metaphor that I could offer. And the best one I could come up with was a baseball team. Now, I'm not going to say which one. I know some of us started as Cardinals fans, Senator Durbin, but now perhaps are Cubs fans or different teams in Illinois. But here's the reason that I picked a baseball team, because I think that the Illinois Democrats have the best team of public servants in the United States of America, bar none. And I don't say it lightly. I have spent the last few months in particular traveling our country trying to help candidates and members and ensure that we keep our majority in the House of Representatives, from New Hampshire to Indiana, from Illinois to California, and everywhere in between. And I got to tell you, up and down the ballot in the state of Illinois, you have so much talent, starting with your state's senior senator. Now, I'm a political nerd of sorts. I grew up as a kid watching C-SPAN, which means I've spent the last 30 years watching Dick Durbin give it to the Republicans day in, day out, month in, month out, decade out. Not that I'm aging him. He's still a young man. But you can imagine what it feels like for me to get a call from your state's senior senator, from the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, from the majority whip, asking him to come to Springfield. Can you imagine, just for a minute, the record of accomplishments that your state's senior senator has put forth for this great state and for our country in just the last 2 years since he became chairman of the Judiciary Committee? More judges have been confirmed than any other Judiciary Committee chairman in the modern history of the United States Senate. That's Dick Durbin. And again, I don't say it lightly, but I am a student of history, and I honestly believe this, that when the history books are written and they are asking 50 years from now about which senators will join the pantheon of great senators who have served our republic, Daniel Webster, Henry Clay, and so many others, the pages will say Richard J. Durbin. Let's give him another round of applause. Now, of course, Illinois does have two senators. You just heard from one of the most prolific and talented United States senators in the United States, and that's Tammy Duckworth, right? Now, I told her earlier today when I saw her that I'm just here to sign up for the Duckworth train. She's a rising star in the National Democratic Party. What's that, the old adage that there are only two things that are certain in life, death and taxes. I would amend that to say there's only three things certain in life: death, taxes, and Tammy Duckworth ending up on a Democratic presidential ticket one day. So I'll just say that for the record. Sign me up. And then, of course, you have an incredible House congressional delegation. Now, it would take me all morning to go through the many superlatives of the incredible Democrats that represent the great state of Illinois in the United States Congress, each and every one of whom is a dear friend. I know there are several of them here today. I don't know if my brother Sean Casten is here. I think he is here. No one in the Congress has done more for clean energy than Sean Casten. The energy that he has brought to the existential threat of climate change. Jan Schakowsky, a living legend, progressive stalwart, standing in the breach time after time. Lauren Underwood, my sister from the class of 2018, majority maker, incredible member. Raja, not going to pronounce his last name, an incredible colleague of mine. He gave a hell of a speech this morning. There is no one in the House, and I say this with all seriousness, who has done more to fight corruption than Raja. Him and I are leading an effort to try to ban congressional insider trading, stock trading by members of Congress, and Raja has been at the forefront of that battle. Bill Foster, Bill Foster, right? Brilliant guy, scientist, so much talent. I have to say, that video made Bill Foster more exciting than I have ever seen him. I know he's here. He is a great member. He serves the state of Illinois so well. We've got to make sure that we get him reelected. Cheri Bustos, I have mixed feelings about giving a shout out to my friend Cheri Bustos, because we're still trying to convince her to run for reelection. I mean, think about it. Think about the sacrifice that she made, serving her community for the last decade, winning time after time in a district that former President Trump won by double digits. Can you imagine? Can you imagine where our republic would have been in 2018 if Cheri Bustos was not leading the effort to reclaim a Democratic majority in the United States House of Representatives? Not figuratively, literally. That's Cheri Bustos. Of course, I know I saw him earlier today, Chuy Garcia, the godfather of Chicago. Where's Chuy? If Chuy's here, I hope he'll stand to get recognized. But there he is, he's way in the back. You know, I got to get a permission slip to come to Chicago. Whenever I come to Chicago, I check in with Chuy first. He's the boss. And then, of course, there are many new members of Congress who will be taking the oath of office in just a few short months. There are 5 words that I cannot wait to say on November 8th, and that is United States Congresswoman Nikki Budzinski, right? And she's not the only one. She's not the only one. Eric Sorensen, he's going to win this November. Jonathan Jackson, civil rights legend, he's coming to Congress. Delia Ramirez, rising star. They already got plans for Delia in the House. When I got off, this morning got in the car with Whip Durbin, he had 2 questions for me. He said, "How was your flight last night? And have you met Delia Ramirez?" I said, "Yes, I've met her, and she's going far in the House." So, look, I am grateful to the state of Illinois for continuing to send such talented people to serve your state and to serve with me in the House of Representatives. And I would be remiss if I did not also recognize, I'm not going to say, that I have a favorite in the Illinois congressional delegation. I will just simply say that she truly is my sister, your former chair, my Black Caucus colleague who has worked harder than any other member to address the scourge of gun violence in the United States of America, Robin Kelly. Let's give her a round of applause as well, and let's thank her for her service. So, great candidates up and down the ballot. Your Speaker of the House, your Senate President, your Governor, your Lieutenant Governor, your Attorney General. You all have so many Democrats here in the state of Illinois, and I am just grateful. Grateful for the opportunity to say thank you for everything that you've done for the state and for ultimately our country. Now, I could not be more excited to be in Springfield. I suspect many of the folks who speak at this brunch say that, but I really mean it. I have dreamed all my life of coming to Springfield, Illinois. Maybe that sounds a little odd to some folks, but I really have since I was a kid. And I want to try to explain why. And Cheri touched on this a bit. I am a proud American, as are my parents. But like so many of you, my parents are immigrants. They came to this country 40 years ago from a small, war-torn country in East Africa called Eritrea. Came here to the United States with very little as refugees, ended up in Bakersfield, California, Harley, capital of the world, which is where I was born. They worked hard. They sacrificed day in, day out to give me and my sister the kinds of opportunities that they never could have dreamed of. And because of the incredible freedoms and opportunities that we have in the United States of America, they were able to see their son, one generation removed, one generation, be sworn into the United States House of Representatives as Colorado's first black congressman. That, to me, underlines the miracle of American democracy. It's what our republic is all about. And for me personally, Springfield has always embodied so much of that indomitable American spirit, the home of our nation's greatest president, who I've idolized since I was a kid. So for me to come here to see the Lincoln Museum, which is half the reason I came for the, Senator Durbin, just in full disclosure, to be here with all of these great Democrats in one of the hallmarks of American democracy, that takes the cake for me. Now, I don't want to give the wrong impression, because the truth of the matter is, notwithstanding how optimistic I am for our future and for our collective future as a country, we face a lot of obstacles. We know this. Inflation, climate change, big challenges that face our country. But I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you that today, after last night's election in Wyoming, the threat that is top of mind for me is the threat that exists to our fundamental system of government, to our ability to continue as a constitutional republic. That very same question that was the center of the impeachment debate that Sherry mentioned. During that impeachment, I got a little bit of fame for, I guess, a few minutes. My wife describes me as kind of an aging Canadian pop star. At the airport, people recognize me. They're not sure from what. You seem shorter than in real life or on TV, but I take it in stride. The truth of the matter is that experience of serving as an impeachment manager, of being on the Senate floor with Senator Durbin and Senator Duckworth, forged in me a commitment to do everything that I can while I have the opportunity to ensure that our republic survives. Because I am sorry to say that the threats that existed before January 6th and on January 6th have only metastasized and gotten worse in these past 2 years. We all know that on January 6th and in the weeks leading up to it, we saw our democracy tested in a way it has not been since the Civil War and Reconstruction. We saw a president reject the will of the American people and demand that elected officials who swore an oath to the Constitution overturn the results of a free and fair election. We saw a violent mob storm the United States Capitol, that hallowed building, and indeed the world's most sacred sanctuary of democracy. I was in the Capitol that day. I know Senator Durbin was on the Senate floor. I was on the House floor. I remember it well. I know my colleagues who are here, they remember it well too. We remember the fear that we had, not just for our own safety and the safety of our staff, but for the future of our republic, the implications that the events on that day would have on the world's oldest and greatest democracy. It was without a doubt one of the darkest days in our country's history. But here's the thing. The story of January 6th doesn't end with the insurrection. Because hours later, we came back. We returned to the House floor. We returned to the Senate floor. We certified the results of the 2020 election. And we made sure that the peaceful transfer of power that has been the hallmark of our country for the better part of 232 years would survive. It is something for us to be proud of. Now, again, I know that we are in the land of Lincoln, that I am in the land of Lincoln, at least for a few days. one of my favorite quotes from President Lincoln, who I know lived literally just a few blocks from here. Talk about living history. Once he said in an address to Congress that we shall nobly save or meanly lose the last best hope of earth. I can think of no better way to frame the decision, the choice that we faced on January 6th, and the choice that the people of the United States of America will face on November 8th in this upcoming election. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, look, Joe, we're trying to have a nice brunch here. You're getting pretty serious. Darkest days of democracy and all this jazz. I'm not trying to ruin your meal today. The reason why I am so passionate about this is because we know there are still those who hope to finish what they started on January 6th. There are people running this year, now, in the present, on the Republican side, who deny the results of the last election, and ultimately, if they are given power, will do everything they can to subvert the next one. That's the choice facing the people of our country. You heard, I think it was the Attorney General, say the Republican Party is no longer the party of Lincoln. He's right. It's no longer the party of Lincoln. It's no longer the party of Eisenhower. It's no longer the party of Liz Cheney. It is Trump's party. And there are Trump-backed candidates, I know I'm preaching to the choir, right here in Illinois, who stood with Trump in his relentless quest to overturn the election, and who won't hesitate to undermine our democracy again if we give them the power to do so. So that's the stakes. That's the question every citizen in this country faces on November 8th. But here's the good news. I believe that if we work hard enough, that if we knock on enough doors, that if we talk to enough voters, that we will win this November 8th. We will keep our majority in the House. We will keep our majority in the Senate. Democracy will prevail this November. Of that I am sure. Now why? Why am I so confident? Why do I believe that as firmly as I do? It's because we've got a hell of a record to run on. And we ought to run on it. As I travel the country, I hear so many folks who are concerned about the Democratic message, the national message, that we're not disciplined enough, that we're not concise enough. And they're not wrong. But it's time we start talking about the ways in which we have taken steps to improve the lives of our fellow Americans over the course of this last 18 months. I think Senator Durbin would agree with me when I say that this Congress is arguably the most productive Congress since the Great Society of the 1960s. We ought to run on it. Look at the past year alone. A bipartisan infrastructure bill, repairing crumbling roads and bridges from McHenry to Livingston. A bipartisan CHIPS bill, which, by the way, has Bill Foster's fingerprints all over it, that will make America the most competitive country on the face of the earth. A bipartisan gun safety bill, the first major gun violence prevention legislation passed by the Congress in 30 years, thanks to Chairman Durbin. And I haven't even talked about the Inflation Reduction Act, which will reduce prescription drug prices and, by the way, is the most significant climate action ever taken by the United States Congress in the history of our republic. So, it's time we run on it. And I am convinced that if we do that, we will re-elect Tammy Duckworth. We'll make sure that Illinois' majorities here in Springfield are preserved. We'll give Chairman Durbin a couple extra Democratic senators to serve with him on the committee. You saw the way in which he presided over. Come on, give Mandela Barnes up in Wisconsin some love. Give John Fetterman in Pennsylvania some attention. Throw a couple dollars to Sherry Beasley in North Carolina. We have the ability, my friends, to not just keep our majorities, but to expand them. So I'm excited. I'm fired up about this election. And notwithstanding all the fear that has become so corrosive to our political system, I'm more optimistic than I've ever been. You know, I'll close on this. I haven't talked about Colorado much. I have the privilege of representing. I see some people in the back love Colorado. Thank you. I appreciate that. Shadow there. You're all welcome to move. You know, we'd love to have you. When I was running for Congress the first time in 2018, I took a tour of a hospital in my district. And the folks who were taking me on this tour took me to a particular wing of the hospital. I had not been there before. It's a wing for seriously ill children, in some cases terminally ill children. And essentially, it's a classroom. It gives children who are dealing with circumstances that are hard for us to comprehend to be able to still get together and interact with each other and learn. And on the wall in this classroom, there were a list of quotes that the students, these young kids, had been asked to put up on the wall, their favorite quotes. And you had quotes up there from Martin Luther King and Maya Angelou, any number of incredible American patriots. But there was one quote that just stuck out to me. It was no attribution on the quote. It just simply said, "Fear is contagious, but so is hope." Think about that, right? Fear is contagious, but so is hope. The challenge that I give to you, there's a lot of fear. President Trump and his acolytes, they have spent years creating that fear, catalyzing it, metastasizing it. It's up to us to deliver hope. The hope that we see in the eyes of the activists who are knocking on doors right now in Springfield. The hope of organized labor, the folks who are out there doing everything that they can to make sure that working people in our country are given the ability to live their dreams. The hope we see in our children's eyes, the hope that I see in my 4-year-old daughter's eyes each and every day. That is our responsibility. Let us do the work. Let us reinstill hope in each and every American in the United States, and let's win this election. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Let's get it done. Thank you again.